Welcome back to Inventory Watch for January 21st, 2024. We've got lots of things happening in the Phoenix housing market, but before we jump into Phoenix, I want to talk about some national trends that I've been seeing and why I think that the inventory crisis has finally bottomed out and we may be moving in the opposite direction of more inventory going into 2024. Let's take a look. I'm going to jump into presentation mode. And of course, I'm going to shrink my head. So let's jump into the first graph that I have for you guys. So this is just the last 5 years of total national inventory across the country. And if I turn this out for the past 10 years, it's just going to be more of this, the inventory just kind of falling. So I only went 5 years back because that's not what's interesting. What is most interesting is the trend here of going into from the end of 2022 or the end of 2021 going into 2022 was the bottom of inventory, because from 2022 to 2023, we can see we had a new higher low, right? So we got lower low, lower low, lower low. And then last year we had a higher low. So inventory is still very, very low. Don't get me wrong. It's still very, very low. However, this is the end of 2023. And as more data comes out, it's a little behind. This is the National Association of Realtors data that I got off of Trading Economics. So that when they update this, I will update you guys. However, I do believe that we have this line here that says, 1,000 is that at the end of 2022 into 2023, we closed inventory just barely below that 1,000 line. In 2024, we are right on the line, which is a new higher low. And so that means that we have possibly reverse trend, or we may hang out like around this 1,000 level. And what could happen is we reversing trend and going up in the opposite direction. So this, to me, says that this could be a trend reversal and inventory could start coming. It's actually starting to come here in Phoenix, and we'll talk about the numbers. Let's just jump right into the inventory numbers that we got. So let's talk about Phoenix numbers. So brand new listings coming to the market. We are up 15% year over year with brand new fresh listings coming to the market. You can see that heading into Q4 of last year, we started to see new listings fall, right? Interest rates were high. They were coming off of the highs of 8%, and we had the holidays, and usually inventory, doesn't increase too much around the holidays. So this is somewhat of a normal trend, but it was very, very low compared to what it was the year before. Like it was such a dramatic decrease in new listings. So you can see we bottomed out here. I don't know what date that is because of okay, so we bottomed out at the last week of December, and going into January, the home sellers just went gangbusters. We're starting to see more inventory come. So yes, we're up 15%. Last week, I created a target that said, hey, we are on pace for 8.5 to 9,000 homes this month. And right now we're somewhere on pace for about 8.7 thousand homes from what I'm seeing in the numbers this week. So we are still on pace to beat last year's number year over year, which is great. So we're getting the listings. So do we have the buyers? Let's talk about that. Before we talk about buyers, let's just talk about total active inventory. So that was brand new listings, right? So we saw brand new listings starting to increase. Total inventory is also increasing. So we ended December with 14,825 homes on the market, like pretty low. However, like I was talking about in the national inventory, it is not the low that we saw, because I'm pretty sure we were going into December 2023, like when last year, with like only 12,000. And so again, we had a higher low. And so I believe that we're going to start seeing more inventory coming to our market. So we are in January now, and we are up to 15,795 listings, which means from that low, we're up 6.5% from the end of December, which is great. what I'm also starting to see is sellers get a little bit excited and starting to list their houses for a little bit more. And let's talk about that. So the average list price is up. I am seeing more expensive homes on the market. We do have a luxury listing for about 75 million that maybe have like rise the tide on this number a bit, but we'll see what happens there. So let's go into, are there buyers? Okay. Last week, I know I said like, hey, buyers are back. And guess what? They're still here. They didn't change. We saw a 21% increase week over week with even more buyers. And so this was last week. There was 2,800 buyers running around putting homes under contract. And this week we saw 3,409 buyers putting homes under contract. So that is a huge increase week over week. So there are buyers right now. I'm sure the lower interest rates, they're trying to take advantage of it in case they go up. So I'm sure it's some pent up demand from having that 8% interest rate. My concern is that it may not be sustainable with what I'm seeing with jobs and layoffs and things like that. So we do have to be careful and watch those numbers. The average contract price that I'm seeing for what people are putting homes under contract is $677,000, which is up from, I believe, 580 something. So that this is a significant increase in under contract price. So there are more buyers out there with a little bit more buying power. And that's probably because interest rates came down, right? So we're able to give the buyers a little bit more buying powers with the lower rates. So we'll keep an eye on interest rates. It hasn't moved too much. There was a slight increase towards the end of last week that I did see, but overall they have remained pretty stable in that. Let's talk about the pending ratio. So this is what I like to report on every week. That kind of tells us where are we as far as a buyer's market or a seller's market, who is in control of the market, and will those multiple offers and that kind of crazy market come back. And what I've seen was a huge increase in the pending ratio into the seller's favor. So we have more zip codes where the sellers are in control. And I did piece that out. So if you're interested in understanding, or if you're thinking about listing your house and you're not sure if your zip code is a buyer zip code or a seller zip code, let's take a look at that now. And we can talk about the zip codes where the sellers are in control. So let me move this. So this is the calculations that I just did based on the pending ratio and the months of inventory. And so we can see that Tucson, Arizona is the number one hottest market right now as of today in the Phoenix metro. So the pending percent is actually over 100%, which means that there is not enough inventory for the amount of buyers that have been running around in Tucson looking at homes. So if you're thinking about selling your home in any of these markets here, there's a really good chance that it's going to sell. The pending percent is well over like the 40% number, where I average all of the market out. Like anything over 40% to me is more of seller's control. Look at the pending percent for these cities. Tucson is 133%, Laveen 74%, Gilbert 73%, Chandler 67%, Waddell 63%, Sierra Vista 60%, Glendale 60%, Tempe, Anthem, Buckeye, Santan Valley, Peoria, Coolidge, Avondale, Arizona City, Phoenix, Apache Junction, Sun Lakes, Whitman, Queen Creek, Casa Grande, Mesa, Youngtown, Fountain Hills, Sun City, Litchfield Park, and Surprise. These are the top markets where there's buyer demand starting to rear its head and inventory is not keeping up. Inventory is definitely not keeping up in Tucson. As far as months of inventory goes, you can see that most of these have under 2 months of inventory. So the closer that we get to like 3 months of inventory tells us, it's starting to head back into a buyer's favor too. So These are the markets where it's just kind of flat, where there's like, it's kind of more balanced. And so that would be El Mirage, Scottsdale, Florence, Gold Canyon, Flagstaff, Sun City West, and Maricopa. These, of course, the ones with the higher, the closer they are to 40%, the more into a seller's favor they're going to be. And these ones under 35% is more in a buyer's favor. Maricopa took a huge demand fall at the end of last year. It was interesting to see it coming out into balance now. Keep your eye on Maricopa. And then these are the cities where more of buyer demand. So if you're looking to purchase and you don't want to deal with multiple offers, these are some options for you. Goodyear, Prescott, Tonopah, Cave Creek, Sedona, Hereford, Paradise Valley, Show Low, Payson, Eloy, Rio Verde, Wickenburg, and Carefree. You can see these, most of these are outside of the Phoenix Metro, but Goodyear is in there, Paradise Valley is in there, and those are really the only two in the major metro. Wickenburg's a little bit out, but still in Maricopa, so Maricopa County. So those are the top markets by buyer and seller. Let's go back and check out the rest of the inventory watch numbers and see where we're headed that way. So this is the market total pending. And so I shared with you guys the top zip codes where the sellers are in control, where buyers were in control. Let's check out sold homes. So sold homes is a lagging indicator. So sold homes, we are at 2024, 2,400 sold homes so far this month. Last year, this time we had 2,600 sold homes, but that's because, Q4 of 2022 was feeding into the 2023 numbers, and Q4 of 2023 was absolutely horrendous, and it was very, very slow for our market. So that's why closings are a little bit slow. With this increase in buyer demand and all of the pendings that we have right now, that is going to fuel the numbers for February and March. And so I would imagine that the sold home numbers are going to increase for February and March. So we did see the sold price go up 10K. So the week before, I saw closing prices at $576,000, and just in the last week, it's increased to $586,000. Again, when interest rates come down, that gives the buyers a little bit more buying power to use. So that's good if you're a buyer or a seller in this market and you're wanting to get a little bit more for your house. However, just be very careful. Remember what zip code you're in or what city that you're in. I just shared with you guys the top markets where, in a market like Tucson, where it's 133% pending ratio, you could probably get over asking is what I'm saying. So it's definitely interesting to watch that. So let's jump into the rental market. So the rental market we talked about last week was starting to cool down a little bit, and hasn't changed all too much from last week. So let's take a look at that. There is one change that I did see that we can go over. The rental listings are actually up 5% year over year. So we did see more listings come to the market last week, actually, and that was really great for us. So that's kind of stabilizing. We are up. Total active listings is up 1.4%. So that's good too. I don't like to see the rental market decrease in too much, because that means prices are going to, rents are going to increase. And I think they're already pretty high. So it would be great if we could see rents start to come down. So the more inventory that we see here, the better it will be for renters. Landlords may not like that so much, but I'm all for anything to get affordability back into our market. Pendings and contingents on rentals. So we did see pendings increase 3%. So we saw a total inventory increase of 1.4%, and we saw more rent, about 3% renter. So we're still kind of hanging out right there. But what that did to our pending ratio for rentals was really not a big move. We went from 8.7% to 8.8%. So some zip codes, landlords are having that slight advantage. And some zip codes, it's more of a buyer's market or renter's market, I should say. So just keep an eye out what kind of market you're in there. If we're looking at total rents, I did see rents come down this week, which is great. Last week, rents were at $23.69, averaging like higher than where we were. And that number came down dramatically in just a week. So all the extra inventory is good, I think. And this could be we're seeing renters, renting in the lower markets. So that's where we are there in the pending ratio. And that's really all I got for you guys this week. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. We'll take a look at the pending ratio next week and see if buyers are still going to stick around going into buyer season here in Arizona. And have a great day.